Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about actor Hill Harper, how he's announced his run for Senate in the state of Michigan. We're going to break down the details about this big announcement. Also, we're going to talk about the new Black platform Spill has officially launched its beta version of its messaging app. And what does that mean in the landscape of the Twitter, Threads, and all of the other apps? So we'll have that discussion. Also, we're going to be checking in with Dr. Bridget for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. We wasn't on yesterday. We had to bring her back today, bring her on today. She's going to talk to us a little bit about kidney stones among young people and much, much more. And I got something for you for trends, posts, and doing the most. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Big shout out to my culture crew. Happy Tuesday, crew. Good to connect with you and hopefully get to hear from so many of you. I see y'all checking in on our YouTube page. If you want to join us in the crew, make sure you jump in the chat. You can check us out on YouTube as we're streaming live right there under Roland Martin on the YouTube page, right? Because Roland Martin just has a whole bunch of stuff on there. He got a whole bunch of videos, but you can join the chat right now as we're broadcasting live on blackstarnetwork.com and, of course, on Amazon News. But join the conversation, and like any other digital show you have ever been a part of, you are a part of the show. So we invite you to join the discussion and be a part of today's culture crew. All right, folks, let's jump right into it. Since so many things have been happening over these past few days, the big conversation that people are having is the insertion of actor and author Hill Harper, who has officially announced that he's planning to run for Senate for the state of Michigan. Now, of course, Hill Harper, he's been seen on shows like The Good Doctor, CSI New York, and many other shows and movies. But this is his first political bid. And he is just at a point where he's like, enough is enough. He's running as a Democrat, and he's essentially saying, hey, we need something new. We need something different. People are feeling hopeless. Washington, it seems broken, and I want to do something to be a part of bringing things back together. Let me share with you what Mr. Hill Harper had to say as he announced his Senate run for the state of Michigan. He said, quote, "We're in a state where I think the triple blue leadership in Lansing has done really hard work moving the state forward. But in Washington, D.C., it's still broken. And folks feel like it's still broken. And I'm one of them." This is what he told the Detroit News. He said, "Without energized, bold leadership in the U.S. Senate, our state will continue to be held back from achieving its full potential. We deserve a better brand of politics than politics as usual. And that's why I'm running for the U.S. Senate. As an example, if I'm elected to the U.S. Senate, I will be the only U.S. senator who is a current dues-paying, card-carrying union member, as he's part of SAG-AFTRA for actors." He said, "If I'm elected to the U.S. Senate, I will be one of very few small business owners in the U.S. Senate, and I believe the only Democrat." Now, he owns a coffee shop right in Detroit, folks. The name of the coffee shop is The Roasting Plant, right there in downtown Detroit on Woodward Avenue. He's moved to Detroit back in 2008. He bought a historic Charles T. Fisher mansion in the city's Boston Edison neighborhood. But he essentially is saying that the Senate needs a richness of diversity, including life experience, and that he would help to fill that void. All right, let me check in with my brother, who's always got something to say. My brother, Sinead Wakofa, who is a diversity, equity, and inclusion specialist. He's also an activist. He's a longtime leader in the city of Baltimore and across the country. And I'm always happy to have my brother join us. Look at his locks, though. Look at your locks. Your joints are just locking. Hold on, you on me, bro? You on me? I want to hear you. I need to hear you.
They locked in. They locked in.
Hey, Sinead, first and foremost, man, good to reconnect with you, bro. What do you make of this? Hill Harper, he's an actor, but he's also an author of the books. And I put it out there on my social media. Look, he wrote he wrote a number of books, but one of them being letters to my letters to my brother, and it's one of those books that really talks about the plight of black men. And I remember, coming across this years ago when President Obama was in office, actually, where he started the My Brother's Keepers initiative. But then, he came to Baltimore. I saw him down at the Enoch Pratt Central Library in downtown Baltimore, and just always appreciated what he brought to the conversation. What do you make of his announcement of going for the Senate? He has no political ties. He has Hollywood ties, but he has no Washington, D.C. ties in the big scheme of things. So what do you make of this, bro?
Well, I think the announcement is very welcome to me, and like I always do, I'm gonna go and tell you a story before I get into why.
Go ahead.
I was just recently watching. I was recently watching a program on the network. I won't call its name, but it was talking about the history of the sitcom, and it told a story of once upon a time. It was Norman Lear, the creator of All in the Family, Jeffersons, and Good Times. It was talking about how there was a big plethora of white men trying to tell black stories. Then, after a couple of decades, it was important that now we had black men and black women telling the stories. That was around the 80s and the 90s. And then now the 2000s and the 10s and the 20s, which we're in now, it's important of having a diverse group of the black folks, Native American folks, Latinx folks. So I use that example to put here. I think Hill Harper is very sane. Hill Harper, as far as we know, is very much in his mind. He has a very successful career in Hollywood. I don't think it would be a bad thing. I think he's not running for anything presidential, but when you think about some of these Senate hearing meetings, the Senate committee meetings where they are interviewing, let's say they're grilling tech executives, the Zuckerbergs, the Musks, and so on and so forth. You do need people who are actually very aware of tech and how tech works. And it has been like that we don't have that. So maybe Hill Harper stepping into this space as a potential Senate run could be good. It could be a different, diverse black voice, because we don't only want just same old, aged old black politics, because we talked about how that doesn't always work. We need a plethora. For this gumbo to work, we need different spices that are at the very least sane. And I think Hill Harper is one of those people. He came to Morgan State, great brother.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I want to just take a couple of comments from the crew, because folks are feeling the same way. I think people are like, okay, this is a welcome surprise. I think the fact that he doesn't have deep political experience might work to his advantage. I mean, he is a business owner. He's actually he adopted a son. So he's a single father who has adopted a boy, which is awesome in and of itself. But I think, to your point, it brings some different experience. Like he reminds me, and it's interesting, he reminds me like a President Obama, very thoughtful, type of brother who, he's not going to quick to temper. He's thinking this thing through. He's trying to figure out, how do we make this thing work? And I think it's important that we do have individuals like him. I mean, he's not the quote unquote top A-list actor, but he's an actor that has garnered the respect from folks in the industry. But more importantly, I think he's garnered more respect just because of his books and the work that he has done over the years that has put him in these spaces. Let me go to a couple of what the crew members are saying, because folks are checking in around this. Tiana, you say, quote, and good to hear from you, Tiana. You said, I hope he wins. We need more black folks in the Senate, especially considering, I think there's Tim Scott, we got Cory Booker. He would still, Sinead, he would still be breaking new ground as one of the very, very few black senators, if elected. he will still be breaking ground. How do you speak to that, bro?
Yeah, I mean, he'll be breaking grounds for a reason because, like you just did, you can name all the black senators. That's the first problem. You can name them because it's a very small few. He'll be breaking ground on many fronts. Tim Scott and Cory Booker both have a very similar political background, if you will. And for somebody to be an outsider, again, he could now be the spokesperson, a good example for if the outsider thing works. Somebody who don't have a political, because we saw Donald Trump use that rhetoric for why he wanted to become president when he first ran. And many people went with that. Even I scratched my head like, we'll see. He didn't get my vote, but we'll see, because sometimes you do need an outsider in theory to drain the swamp. And I think that would be great if he could be that spokesperson. But I believe in this day and age, and when you look at the voting block, I talk about this a lot, the voting block is different. What matters to the new voting block of today is not what mattered to the voting block of yesterday. And maybe somebody like Hill Harper could leverage those disenfranchised millennials who don't really feel heard by the people who a lot of them feel forced to vote for because voting is their fundamental right, but I'm voting for someone who doesn't represent me. Maybe he could be the beginning, the catalyst of that representation.
I think that what you're pointing out is absolutely essential. I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, Sinead, I want to kind of deep dive into the point that you made in terms of the current landscape. I don't know if black people, and as much as we talk about this, we want to see change in terms of black political leadership, black political representation. That means that we're going to have to kind of, as the constituents, as voters, we're going to have some level of faith that when new voices like a Hill Harper comes into the conversation, that there is a consideration. I think we're playing it too safe. You know what I'm saying? And so when you say a person like a Hill Harper, hell, when you see a Dr. Cornel West, it's like some folks are like, oh, no, we don't know. We don't want to, this ain't the time to do all of that. You know what I'm saying? And I think that sometimes in a moment of uncertainty, Sinead, and I'm sure you probably agree with me, sometimes you just gotta just shake shit up. You know what I'm saying? Just gotta shake it up. Just because we're still kind of in this humdrum, like we are just going to kind of wash away. But I personally can't see us going another 4 years, whether it's on the state side or the national side, doing the same thing, expecting different results. Because the last time I checked, I think that's the definition of insanity. Look,
right.
Folks, I gotta take a quick pause. When we come forward, folks, I want to hear from you, crew. What's your take on actor Hill Harper throwing his hat in the ring to run for Senate for the state of Michigan? I'm gonna share some of the political details about what's going on in Michigan. And do you think he has a chance? Would you support him? Folks, join us in the conversation. We're streaming live right now on YouTube. Check us out on Roland Martin on YouTube. And let's continue the conversation on the other side here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about Hill Harper, actor and author and activist Hill Harper, who has thrown his hat to run for Senate in the Senate race in Michigan. And this has given Democrats something to really think about, to say the least, because not only does Hill Harper have name and star power, he also has access to the money. And he's coming out of a space where he's highly respected, both on screen and off screen. His works, his literature, the books that he has written to talk about the issues affecting Black men and boys and Black families have resonated with a lot of people across the country. And of course, just his overall brilliance and insight into the space. He's putting himself into a place where, in the state of Michigan right now, people are looking for something different. Now, let me just say this. I think we only named 2 Black men. There's actually 3. I don't know how we forget to include, and I want to bring my brother Sinead back into this frame. Sinead, how did we forget to include Raphael Warnock?
Because he's so new.
How did we forget Raphael Warnock? This Tim Scott, there's Raphael Warnock, there's Cory Booker.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't forget Raphael Warnock after all that stuff that went down. So if Hill Harper gets elected to the Senate, he would be the 4th Black man in the Senate. Damn, that's still a problem. Like you said earlier, Sinead, if you can count on your one hand how many Black men are in the Senate, we still got a lot of work to do. Here's a question, though, I got for you, bro, as we look at this. With Hollywood and politics so closely linked, do you think that this will become an issue for people to take him seriously? Now, unless you follow Hill Harper, unless you are in certain spaces, yes, you're familiar with the work of Hill Harper as the activist. But if you don't follow him, if you're not aware of what he brings to the table outside of his acting, you might just see him as another Black actor or just another actor trying to get into the race. Do you feel like that would be a hindrance for his campaign?
No, because I think this generation understands that you can walk and chew gum. Like, I think folks understand these days that you get to be multifaceted. And we have to also remember that it is very anti-Black to think that we only get to be one thing and that we only get to maneuver through one avenue, because we had a president that was a movie star. We've had another president that was a reality star, and we've had a governor that was a movie star. I'm talking about Schwarzenegger, Reagan, and the defamed Donald Trump. And I think it's important, whether he's good or bad, and I think this is something that we have to think about. I think it's very interesting when Black people run into these spaces that have been dominated by white men in particular, where we're always saying, send the best of our best. But that's problematic because our white counterparts didn't send the best of their best. They sent their best, their worst, the indifferent in the middle. And I believe in Hill Harper's case, whether he is good or bad, I think we have to be very careful on whatever standard we're trying to hold him to, because we have to, and I know this may sound crazy, but as humans, we have to be able to make space for even our people to go in and make a mistake. Every black politician will not be perfect, but we've had thousands of white politicians who get to be everything in between. And I think, again, this is not total that he needs to be lukewarm or lackluster, but we need to be careful to not put a great deal of pressure, because these four people that we're now going to name, the three people that you named before, and him becoming the fourth by the grace of God, that they now have to answer for all Black America, and that they have to be the greatest example. That is unrealistic.
I love that point. I love that point, Sinead. I love that point, because I do agree with you 1,000% that and it's not bad. Let me just say this: to have a high standard for political representation is actually very, very good. But when you think about the history of what we've already been dealing with, and like you said, we have this super high standard for black political represent, or black people that want to get in politics, very low standard for white people who are in politics. Yet we will support white people because they've been in politics for so long. They got the name, they got the quote unquote, the credibility, versus a black person that might just be a neophyte who's just coming into the space, the whole thing. So I'm so happy that you kind of pointed that out for us. All right, Robin, you checked in and said, Robin Welch, you said you love it. I pray he wins. He's an amazing man, Hill Harper. Absolutely. Deidre, you said that's amazing. He owns a coffee shop and he's running for Senate. Absolutely. Carolyn Lewis, you checked in and you said, yes, he is or will be swimming with the sharks. Michigan needs black representation in Washington. Yep, I hear that. Let me see here. Janelle, you said, good afternoon, all. What's with these folks skipping local politics and jumping in at the federal level? That's a great question. What do you think of that, Sinead? What do you make of that? I think Janelle brings up a good point. We do see a lot of people because all politics is local, but a lot of people either go into Congress or they just reach for the stars and try to run for president.
Again, I think we need to be very careful with what we say, because look at the benefits of somebody like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who doesn't have a background and jumped right in from waitressing right into the political service.
That's right.
And she's been a trailblazing star the entire time. I think we have to understand that, yes, I do like the idea of city council to mayor to governor, but you have to also remember that as we advance as a people and our technology advances, there is a lot more knowledge that's accessible to people earlier, where some people I don't see the point of going to local politics. I want to go directly into where I can make a bigger difference. And I have no issue with that if you are qualified, just like anything else. I don't think there's anything wrong with skipping. We have an education system where if you're smart enough, you can skip grades. You can graduate earlier, get extra credits, whatever. I have no issue if you are qualified. I don't think there's a problem with that. And I think it's important to also note that we have to be careful to not be dismissive, because the fact that he wants to go into politics is the most important thing, or be a politician is the most important thing. If we now use the rhetoric and say, okay, why not start at the grassroots level? Somebody can say, you know what, I don't want to do this at all anymore. And now we're losing. We are too minuscule in numbers to be begging and choosing.
Right, absolutely.
We weigh them out and go from there.
Absolutely. You don't like my music. You said it can't be all lawyers and rich businessmen. We do find that to be the case, Sinead. There's a lot of lawyers, there's a lot of businessmen. But my sister Corinna, she said, you don't like my music. Well, the non-lawyers and non-rich businessmen don't always understand politics, nor are they motivated to run for office. That must change. And then I saw that Tiana said, not only is Hill Harper an actor, he is a lawyer as well, so he knows how government works. There's a pro and con to that whole thing of bringing people that know the system, quote unquote, like a lawyer, who come from that space, right? Or a person who's like a businessman. We've seen that model. We seen it crash and burn, and we sort of kind of seen it work to the people's favor. But what's your take on that, bro?
I mean, it's all point by point. I mean, you can go and look at the example of the Supreme Court if you want to ask why we should have more lawyers, if that's what you want to go for. That's a great example there. Or you can look at Ron DeSantis during the COVID pandemic, and he is a lawyer, and he was making laws based on business. And how did that go? It's all case by case. I think what we need is competent people. I think when you limit positions based on specificities, especially when it comes to politics, when you limit positions based on specificity of what you've majored in, then you lose out on people, like the example I gave about the Senate hearing. And again, one thing I do agree with Donald Trump about, that he made a statement about, is that we need more business people in politics. And the truth of the matter is, sometimes it's the business person who makes a decision that a lawyer would never think to make. And that can be beneficial. If you want to know how beneficial that point is, go look at any of your institutions of higher education. There is a big push for more presidents of institutions of higher education to have a business background and not so much of an education background. Because from a business point of view, we want somebody who thinks differently. It's fortunate that lawyers at times, they have a very panopticon view of life. And in our world that is forever changing and that is forever giving us challenges of different types of people, whether it be from different genders or different cultures. We need people who can look at that not from a very black and white point of view. We need somebody who can look at that in a multicolor, multi-ideal place. And you might get that from somebody who's worked in Hollywood, which is exactly what I just described.
Right. You don't like my music. He agrees with you on that one, Sinead. He said, I agree with the guest host. We need all walks of life represented. Here's my thing, and I know some of you might think this is crazy, and Sinead, I don't think you might think this is crazy. But we can use businessmen, we can use lawyers, but what about actual community activists? I remember when Barack Obama ran, people were like joking him, like, oh, you know, community activist. He talking about working for the people. He talking about running for the United States, president of the United States. He actually came as a senator, right? Came from the state of Illinois, made his transition to becoming president. But he's a community activist. And here's why I'm saying that, bro. So I said this before. There are two reasons. One, you want, as a community activist, as you spoke on, the lens by which you see things. When you work in social justice, you see things for what they are. That's the beauty of working as a community activist. You don't come into the space assuming, you don't come into the space imposing. You learn how to see things as they are. You see the good and you see the not so good. But then you also understand the dynamics of power within systems and institutions, right? So you understand how things correlate and relate to one another to bring people from one state into the next state, right? So there has to be community activists. This can't be something that we laugh at or we scoff at or we say, oh, well, you don't have the money. We're talking about the view. We're talking about perception. If the person that is representing us in these higher seats of power, dictating the agenda in terms of policy, right, and really have to, quote unquote, think about the American people with every single decision they make while in office, then I want somebody who gives a damn about people. I want somebody who has a heart to serve people. The business is right, but sometimes, and you know what Sinead, those who have a heart to work and who come from the business space, they see people as widgets and wadgets instead of seeing people as human beings. They see the bottom line instead of seeing the impact of a policy. They go, oh, this is expedition. You know, we need to. This works for this, but I'm not understanding that you got to still see people. What's your take on that, bro?
I think you're 100% correct. And more importantly, this is why Hill Harper needs to get in, is because, to your point about community activists, the idea is you need more different people, and you need people to be represented in a way that if you are an outsider of that political society, that you're not immediately turned into a politician. Because the good point of Barack Obama, President Barack Obama, is that he was one of the finest community grassroots organizer. But the thing is, when you're in there by yourself, when you get into the political realm and you're the only one of your kind, it is easy to get drained by that swamp or consumed, by that swamp. And it has been proven time without numbers that community leaders end up creating the legislation that becomes nationwide. Look at the Black Panther Party. For any child that's enjoying school lunch or school meals, it's big thanks to them. It was their idea that now led to become a national campaign. So it is many examples of why it's important for the community activists to be in power. But the thing is, we need to make sure that there is a strong line so that when they get there, they're not immediately dragged into the cesspool of political brouhahas, if you will.
Right. And see, that's why I'm going back to the thing of being an activist. You and I are activists, right? At the heart of the matter, we're activists. You and I think, I mean, I'm not speaking for you, but I think because I know you and I know your heart and spirit, that if somebody makes a proposal for you to do something just for money, just for status, just for some material gain, you're going to walk away. Because that's not where your heart is. And so I agree with you. I think maybe we're trying to figure out the perfect candidate. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to build a bear. You got to build a candidate. We want somebody with a heart, but they should be business minded. They should know the law. And at the same time, you know what I mean, have the mass appeal to get people energized and excited. Maybe. But the thing is, I think, because we've had so many failures in political office, whether it's Black people or white people, people are just trying to figure out what's the right formula and of creating a candidate that's going to speak to our needs and our interests. And at this point, I'm open to anybody that has brilliance, whether you're Black or white. I'm open to anybody that has brilliance. I don't give a damn if Harper came from Hollywood. The brother is smart. The brother has a heart. The brother cares about people. That's my first guideline. Do you give a damn? Yeah. If you don't care, it don't make no sense. If you're just using this as an opportunity to get your dollars up, to get your followers up on social media or some other reason outside of caring about people, then that's a problem. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue the conversation. Let's talk about, speaking of people, let's talk about Black folks on social media. The new Black-owned app, Spill, has launched its beta version of its messaging site, and there's some conversation about it. And people are kind of getting more and more excited. It is rising up in the ranks on the App Store. And so I'm going to talk to my brother Sinedu and, of course, you to get your take on this new space that we find ourselves in, where the average person will probably have 5 different social media accounts. I'm going to break them down for you on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together, so let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. All right, let's jump into the conversation about the new black platform Spill, where the founders who are former Twitter employees, Alfonso Fons Terrell and Devarius Brown, you can definitely, they were on Roland Martin Unfiltered last week, folks, talking about the launch of this new platform. It has now officially begun. They've launched the beta version of the platform, which is currently live, but the app is still invite only. Now, some additional, according to the statistics, some additional 130,000 users signed up for Spill in early July, and the app was the third most downloaded app on the Apple App Store on Monday. Users who are looking to experience the new platform can join the wait list on the Spill website. You can go to Spill. And it was just essentially built around creating safety for diverse communities, which the founders have referred to as culture drivers, according to Afro Tech. Let me bring my brother back into this. Sinead Wakorfor. Sinead, you on Spill, right?
I am.
You are on Spill. Did you get the link? Because I got the little what's the little password? And I just got it today. I was on the wait list, and then I just got the password. I started creating my little profile on Spill. But what do you make of this? Because just last week we saw Threads hitting the market, and Threads has already garnered over folks. I'm looking at this thing. Sinead, Threads has already garnered over 100 million users in the number of days, bro. Days. I mean, I'm like, damn, man. Like, people must really want to talk. Now they still got some ways to go before they meet Twitter. But Twitter, Elon Musk is like sweating a little bit. Like, what? It's sweating. So where does Spill fit into all of this? Because this is Black owned, Black targeted. This is more gift, like pictures, photo driven than anything. It's like I would think it's like a sort of a mashup between Instagram and Twitter. But what's your take of it?
Yeah, I would say more of Twitter and Tumblr.
Okay, Twitter and Tumblr. All right, Twitter and Tumblr.
I was keeping hip with the youth. You know, I can get jiggy with the new stuff as well. But, it joined very early, and I remember I constantly said, like, I'm going to, at the very base, I'm supporting this because this is Black-led, queer-led, all that good stuff, and I really want to be supportive. But I think it's a great idea. But when Spaces or Threads, when Threads came, it reminded me of the bigger issue here. Like, you know, you see this a lot when we do Black businesses. Like, okay, I'm gonna own my own Black record label, or I'm gonna own my own Black school. But if you don't own the crux of the institution, it's hard to really be able to make a massive influence. I really believe that Spill is great, but Threads just showed you. I'm keeping real. White supremacy and its power. I can come out in less than 2 days, 100 million people, because they already have the infrastructure, because they own Instagram and Facebook.
Right. That's all they did. Right.
That's all they have to. It doesn't even matter if Threads isn't profitable. They can stay out and outlast.
Right.
And I enjoy it for the reason of what it is, but I think about this all the time. Almost remind me of the previous conversation that we had. It's like, it's great. This is Spill. It's great. It's new. When an infrastructure is already set and it's very white driven, how successful can our Black-owned businesses be? I think about this in the ride-hailing space. You have the Uber and Lyft as your two main ones, but there are a couple of ride-hailing services that came out locally in New York and DC that are more targeted towards Black folks, Black women, and that are ran by us, but they don't get the same notoriety because the big behemoths come out and they're the only option, and they're huge. So it becomes hard to consider the new fledgling small Black business, even though you want to support. And that's where I'm at with Spills. I think it's a great idea, great concept. I really am looking forward for it to grow. But I just think because it doesn't have a huge backing, I wonder how that mass appeal is going to work for them.
Hey, bro, you and I are on the same page. We're really on the same page. And here's why. When I thought about this, and I was like, damn, man, it's timing. You know what I'm saying? Like business, in good business is warfare. And the success of you being successful in warfare sometimes comes down to the timing. Mm-hmm. So the timing of this, right? So now look at what the average person has. I'm talking about social media account. Facebook, a lot of us are still on Facebook. A lot of us hasn't completely dropped off with Twitter. So some of us are still having Twitter. Instagram, now if you're on Threads, and now we're bringing in Spill. You're talking about 5 social media platforms, right? Some of us got Snapchat still. Some of us are on TikTok. Some of us are on Fanbase. Some of us are on some of the other. We got like 5 to 6 different accounts. And I'm wondering, is this going to cause so many of us, and I'm saying for Black folks, are we going to move to Spill? Because we all jumped on Threads, but are we going to move to Spill? Are we going to support the brothers? Are we going to be in those cultural conversations, right? Because just to your very point, if the behemoth comes out, and look, check this out. I have no doubt that when Threads was launched, bro, mm-hmm. I know somebody saw Spill coming on the radar. Like, yeah, we going to take them. Because this is warfare. Just like Threads is going after Twitter, Threads is also going to probably create some features or some sort of way to incorporate Black users, right? And so I'm just wondering how this thing is going to work out. I want to see Spill successful, but I don't know in the broader landscape, if you got 5 or 6 different social media accounts, how are you going to differentiate? How are you going to get the level of engagement that you want to get? Yeah. All right. Corinna checked in and said, Faraji got me on Threads now. Yes, my brother, I'm blaming you. Don't be blaming me for nothing. Don't blame me for nothing, Corinna. I made a suggestion. But I'm wondering, how many of us, true, how many of you are going to jump on Spill? Some of you might already be on there, but how many of you are planning to engage on Spill? And then again, Sinead, how many of us are going to engage in a way that we engage on social media, Instagram and all of that stuff? That's my great concern about this whole situation.
And it's mine too. And I think and Elon wants to sue him. And I'm not really usually for Elon, but I actually do hope he wins. Because what Mark Zuckerberg is doing with Threads, and we have to all think about it like this, is disingenuous. And I'll give you an example that is more pertinent to your everyday life. Okay, think about that store that you used to go to where there was a mechanic. That mechanic used to go to, that local mechanic, or maybe that local florist, or maybe that local butcher, right? Then think about Walmart. that took all of those jobs away. Now the Walmart can sell you tires, it can sell you the meat, it can sell you the oil change, you can get your glasses, you can do your doctor stuff. And because you're doing it all within my super center, I can discount everything for you. You only got to go to one place. What does that now do to that small business? That's exactly what the behemoth of Facebook has done, who is the owner, Meta, who owns Facebook, who owns Instagram, and who owns Threads. And remember, because of the seamless integration between Threads and Instagram, once you create a Threads account, if you try to deactivate it, you're deactivating Instagram as well. Again, that is that same monopolizing playbook in small businesses. And that is why I'm a little bit leery, because I don't like that sense of control. And if I want to be on social media, let each one be its own personal identity, even if.
But here's, hey, bro, listen to this, and I'm with you 100%. And guess what? Depending on the work, it may not even depend on the work that you do. It's just that the public pressure is so serious, right? Like if you're not on the platform with any of it, if you're the ones of the, and I see some of y'all, my crew members, you know, the folks, they be like, I'm not on this, I'm not on that. The public pressure is so real, because people be like, you're not on this, you're not on that. Man, let me tell you, Sinead, if I say to some people, hey man, I'm not on TikTok like that, I'm not on TikTok, they be like, you a TV host and you ain't on TikTok? How you doing your work? Like, come on, bro. Like, I need to put the phone down at some point in the day, bro. It's so much public pressure, and that's the crazy kind of like cultural side of these conversations. It's like we take the social media platform and we embrace it and internalize it so much that it's like if you're not in those spaces, then something is wrong with you.
And I think to that point, it leads to why Roland Martin Unfiltered is very popular, and it's very important. On one of y'all advertisements, you got one of the people saying, bring your eyeballs home. The issue is not that there's too many social medias. The issue is that it's easy to fall into the nomenclature of what we're used to, which is when social media, you go to the behemoths. We don't think about coming home, just like what we're doing here. These are the conversations that we know that when it comes to Black people, that what you and I are talking about, they all can relate to it. We all can say that this sounds like my uncle. This sounds like the church that I go to, or the mosque or the synagogue. It sounds like the people that I relate to. But the behemoth is, when you think about news, you think about CNN, you think about Fox, you think about, and that's the thing. It's a hard game to play with what Spill is trying to do, where it's, we want to be social media and we want to be just for you. And it then leads the question back onto us, the user. Do we really want Blackness from top to bottom in our social experience, or do we want it sprinkled as a side, as an a la carte like social media experience?
Yes, I like to have my. Can I get a little entree of Blackness, but just a little bit? Like, let me just get a little bit. Let me get a little Blackness. What do you have to drink? Some Latino heritage? Yeah, let me get a little Latino heritage. Absolutely. All right, CA Pullen, CA, you checked in and you said Twitter, Facebook took time to get the kinks out. Spill should allow time to get the kinks out. So are you saying that they should not be trying to launch anytime soon, CA? I just wanted to know. I think you're making an excellent point. But again, these are major, Twitter and Facebook, major companies. These are major, that have major resources, that have access to a lot of people's data. Spill has to start from the ground up, right? Spill. Now, the thing is, if we all run to Spill, do they have the capacity to handle all of us, right? And I think that's what that's the process. They're looking at the beta version. They didn't, roll out all of the full version just yet. But it's like, do we have the capacity to handle Black America, right? And look, here's the other thing, y'all. Here's the other thing, and to Shanae's point. What do we want to talk about? What do we really want to talk about? Because check this out. I don't want to see no dumbass memes no more. Like, I see that on Instagram. I see that on Facebook. are we going to spill into a space where we really are talking about the culture? Are we going to get for real about the culture? Or are we just, we share the same shit that we say we share on, on some of these other platforms? What do we really want to talk about, Sinead?
Mm-hmm. Because also, Faraji, think about TikTok. As popular as it is, a vast majority of TikTok videos that I've ever seen are transposed to Instagram. So
Come
it's
on,
like,
man.
what? And that's why it's important. Again, I love Spill, and I'm gunning for it. But it's important, no matter how much we need it, for us to not be so reactive. Because again, this system is so old. And we are so theoretically new to it as it pertains to ownership that they can dance circles around us. Like I said, Thread doesn't ever have to make a profit. They can just spill out when it comes to a money thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We have to, and back to my TikTok point, what TikTok did that didn't exist, TikTok was just a thing for videos. That's it. Not a whole bunch of just videos. To the point that it pushed, Instagram to do its reels and so on and so have you. And I think that's the thing. What I'm looking for Spill, they're capitalizing on memes, which are a huge part of the culture that Black people have pushed to make them funny from the beginning of time. That's been our thing. But it needs to be something more. And
it does.
This may not sound great to my Black people, but it's not enough that it's Black. It's not enough. Because guess what? If Spirit Airlines was a Black-owned airline and American Delta and Southwest were all white, are y'all flying Spirit all day? So I'm here for the Blackness of it, but remember, the Blackness of it works. But when you think about capitalism, you got to go for the case of the business.
That's all I'm gonna say, Sinead. Young Seek checked in and said, y'all join Spill. We are the sauce. Not going to sit here and worry about threads. I got IG and fan base, and just like Black Star Network, you don't get the same conversation content on mainstream. Absolutely, Young C. Big shout out to you, bro. Thank you so much. And so many of you are like, well, if y'all can download Spill, y'all can definitely download Black Star Network. How about that? How about that? But to your point, Sinead, it has to be something different. It just got to be something different. Like, if we're going to have these multiple conversations, then it's got to be something different. One of the crew members said, Sinead, that somebody's going to invent an app. And I think they already actually have these type of software where you could put one message out on all these different apps at one time, right? I mean, I know that Hootsuite is a software that allows you to do that on multiple platforms, but it is based upon that app's connectivity and the way that app is developed to be able to do that. With a Spill, a lot of these apps, some of these big, multi-platform apps may not be connected with Spill, but we got to see. And that's the whole thing. We have to give grace to ourselves to allow us to try something different. We said we wanted something different. We wanted something that's going to cater to our interests and to our level of engagement and content on social media. Here's a space. We got fan base, and they got a couple of other places, but we have to give ourselves grace to make sure that, like, hey, this is going to work. But my thinking is, here's my final point on this, Sinead. Making sure that just as much as we're spending time online, that we get that same energy in real life.
That's it. Drops mic. That's it.
If we can spend hours online, then and then we say to ourselves, well, we can't volunteer for, with an organization. We can't go and support a local cause or something like that. Like, we just got to figure out the balance. There has to be balance. We can be engaged in social media, but then how do we make sure that we engage in the community that we actually live in? If you're talking to people all across the country, and yet when you walk outside and see your neighbor, you don't say one thing, something is inherently wrong.
There we have it.
That's all I'm gonna say. If you can't say what's up to your neighbor, but you can, good morning, Facebook. Is this the culture? I think this is the culture, right? Like, this is the culture. Like, I've seen it. We don't talk to each other in real life. But we go on social media and be like, good morning. Ain't nothing wrong with you saying good morning, but come on, folks. Let's bridge it together. Like our social media behavior, our social media persona should match our real life persona.
Mm-hmm. What the kids say? Keep that same energy.
Keep that same energy. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. My man Sinead, good to connect with you, bro. God willing, we'll reconnect with you next week. But thank you for joining us for this hour.
Thank you so much, folks.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's check in with Dr. Bridget for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money make this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in as we kick off the second hour of the show. If you missed the first hour, make sure y'all check us out. Check and be a part of Team Replay, where we talked about Hill Harper, the actor Hill Harper, who has decided to announce his run for Senate in the state of Michigan. And we talked, of course, about the new Black-owned app, Spill, that has launched its beta version, and they're still working on making sure that the app is up and running for its full experience. So definitely check out those two conversations in the first hour as part of Team Replay of The Culture. All right, folks, let's talk a little bit about health and wellness. We didn't get a chance to talk about it yesterday, but I had to bring on the good doctor to talk about it today. So now let's get your today's segment on Reclaim Your Wellness with Dr. Bridget. Check it out. Dr. Bridget, happy Tuesday. How you feeling today?
Very good. It's good to see you, Faraji.
Good to see you too, Doc. All right, let's talk a little bit about health and wellness. What you got today, Doc? Something about kidney stones?
Yeah, there's a couple things that were kind of coming across to me that I thought were worth talking about. And there was a recent study with the Mayo Clinic proceedings where they were looking at, they reviewed the prevalence of kidney stones over 3 decades between 1984 and 2012. And what they found with these 10,000 residents in Minnesota that they were looking at, that there was a fourfold increase in kidney stones in women and twofold in men. Now, a lot of times when we think about kidney stones, I think the first thing people think about is severe pain. For many times, they consider it being men. Many times, they also think it being white Americans, right? But there's been a huge shift. There's a larger amount of women that are getting kidney stones, and there's an incredible increase in the Black community as well.
All right, so for those who may not be too familiar, Doc, I don't want to assume that everybody knows what that means and how that affects the body. Talk to what is, when you say kidney stone, what is that?
Okay, so what we're talking about is that there is an increase, usually calcium or calcium salts, calcium oxalate, calcium phosphate, that are crystallizing in the kidneys. And when they crystallize, they become almost these kind of sharp diamond shaped like substances that when you're trying to pass them through the kidney or through the ureter, it ends up being incredibly painful. So it happens for a number of different reasons, but the prevalence of it is switching as far as who we expect to get it. So a lot of the reasons, and we got into this a couple weeks ago, is dehydration is a big part of it. When we're talking about adults, we're often talking about certain medications might lead to it. But with such a shift, not only towards women, towards Black Americans, but particularly girls. And so I thought that was interesting because when you think about kidney stones, you don't think about children.
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing about this. Talk to us a little bit about how it is affecting teenage girls and boys. Where does that come from?
So what we're looking at is that there's, I think our diets have changed over the last 3 decades. Part of it is a big part of it is dehydration, and we're in an incredibly hot summer. So I definitely wanted to talk about this, particularly now, because we're not drinking enough fluids, we're not hydrating. A lot of kids avoid just plain water, and they go to a lot of the sports drinks that are high in electrolytes, which is good, but sometimes the sports drinks are part of the problem. It's also high fat foods or like potato chips, high salt foods. They're finding that it occurs with processed meats, meaning, I know I shouldn't even talk about processed meats since last time, but like lunch meat can be part of it. And high fructose corn syrup is another aspect of this. That, I was still trying to figure out, why are we talking about young girls? And so we're talking about really young women between the ages of 18 to 39 had the highest increase, but even with younger girls, they found an increase. And they're finding part of it is how much antibiotics you're exposed to, and also your body fat composition. So when you put that perfect storm together of your diet, your fat composition, because a lot of times it's not being able to metabolize fat properly, and it ends up getting into your kidneys and creating these stones as well. But between your diet, fat composition, and dehydration, that's where the problem really develops.
What's the youngest case of kidney stones that's on record at this point, Doc?
So I know the articles that I was reading were looking at some 8-year-olds,
Damn.
particularly, but like I said, this is something unheard of. I mean, I never would have, if you really kind of look at patients coming in with different issues, I probably would think of appendicitis. I probably would think about some other GI issues. There is a factor related to inflammatory bowel, not irritable bowel, because that can be really confusing for people. but inflammatory bowel diseases like Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, what have you. But for it to be young girls, it makes me say, what are we feeding our kids? Are we allowing our children to be more obese? Okay. And are we feeding them, instead of giving them water at dinner, or when they should be hydrating, are we filling them up with all of these sometimes high salt soda pops and sports drinks, instead of really just giving kids water?
Right. This is fascinating, because when you think about the sources of kidney stones, and then you look at where a lot of Black families find themselves, like if you live in a neighborhood that doesn't have access to proper foods, or I saw a study, Doc. This was maybe like a few years ago. Someone, I think it was Johns Hopkins, they did a study on the amount of sunshine that Black communities receive versus white communities. And they said that because Black communities have less trees, less shade, it is so many degrees hotter than white communities. It's a very fascinating study, but it just speaks about the fact that our living condition is part of the problem. And we may not think that it is a problem, or we may not think that we have power to change the situation, but just simply knowing that if you live on a block with not a lot of trees, if you live in a house where it doesn't have, sufficient ventilation, cool air, if you're living in a place where you don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, you're not getting, where are you getting your bottled waters? Or if you open up your refrigerator and you got, sports drinks and sodas and all of that, you don't have no cases of water around, none in the refrigerator, none on top of the refrigerator. I mean, it's like we're setting ourselves up for a health emergency.
I mean, think about Flint, right? And if the
right.
Buying bottled water is not always a really great option for a lot of families. There's a cost to it. And drinking water out of your faucet can bring its own risks, right? So we really have to look at how do we keep our families healthy, particularly during a hot summer, particularly, like you said, where you're likely to get more dehydrated, and make sure that we're actually feeding our kids with foods and that are healthy, that can hydrate. We always get the juicy fruits, and vegetables, cucumbers, watermelon, get those fruits into their system so that they can balance along with just good water.
Right, absolutely. I know we got to take a quick pause here, Doc. I want us to take a pause. When you come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this issue of kidney stones. Also, you want to talk to us about the another fruit that's on the dirty dozen list. So I'll let you get into that as well. Folks, join us in the conversations. We talk to certified family physician, Dr. Bridget, MD, as we talk about kidney stones, talking about the dirty dozen list. And of course, you can pose your questions for these conversations. Join us in the discussion. Join us in the chat. You're streaming live on YouTube under Roland Martin. And of course, stay with us. We got a lot more to talk to with the doc here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been checking in with our very own Dr. Bridget, MD, who's given us some insight and some incredible information about kidney stones and how there are some new cases of kidney stones in little girls, teenage girls, and younger. Mm-hmm. And this is a real big problem. Doc, I want to bring you back into the conversation. Here's the thing. The National Kidney Foundation said that about 10% of people in the U.S. will have a kidney stone at some point in their lives, mm-hmm. and that stones can be found in children as young as 5 years old. Mm-hmm. So when a child gets a kidney stone, I know that it probably may feel like an indictment against the parents for not doing what they should be doing. Is that something that you talk about with your clients? Because if my son or my daughter got a kidney stone, I would be like, oh my God, like what is happening? Because this can affect weight. It can affect how their body processes food. It can affect so many other things.
Well, I think there's a couple different layers. First of all, I do not demonize parents. Parents are hard enough on themselves that they don't need someone coming down on them. I hold my parents accountable, but I don't demonize them because they will beat themselves up. Okay. So number one, we all try to do the very best that we can. Some of us need more education than others, but we don't want to demonize parents when something happens to our children, because no one wants anything bad to happen to our kids, right? I think when it comes to something like this, it's something that you might not have even considered. Or I think what we do is we talk a lot about, hydrate, drink water, all this stuff. I don't think we need to talk enough about why, right? It's good to drink. Why? Something like this. You're trying to avoid this. If your child is overweight, if your child has inflammatory bowel disease, if your child doesn't have makes kind of a picky eater and doesn't make the best choices, you need to be vigilant on why this may be important, because this could happen to your child. And to be honest, do it with them. When I come on here and I share information, life change is hard. I do it with you. There are definitely things that I wasn't doing before that I make a point of doing because I'm sharing this information, and I want to make sure that I walk the walk as well. And so adding more water into your right now, my refrigerator is all water. I don't have anything. Well, I don't have a whole lot else in it right now, but I don't. Been a little busy, but I don't have I don't have pop in there. I don't have anything else in there to drink but water. And guess what I end up drinking? water, right? If that's all that you have available, that's what you drink. Okay.
So you have to take a proactive step, and you have to kind of like set personal boundaries on those things. You know what I mean? You're and it's interesting because I was reading some stuff over the weekend, and it was like, if you want to make certain decisions and choices in your life, then, you just have to put some boundaries, set some boundaries up.
Yes.
Where, it's almost like you don't have no choice other than to make the right decision.
We have control over our lives, and we have much more control over our lives than we think we do. Okay. And so it's little changes at a time that might seem minute in the moment, but can make such a huge difference in the long run. A while back, we talked about the toxicity of social media and being on your phone and what have you. I bought an alarm clock, believe it or not. My phone, just like my kids, are out in the kitchen because you end up gravitating to it way too easily. I sleep better. It's small changes. It's small changes. And to be honest, right now with the weather during the summer, if you don't do anything else, make a point to change your diet. Get the water in there because it will make a huge difference, not just in, your organs, because you get dehydrated, your organs can shut down.
Right.
It's also going to make a huge difference in how youthful you look, how good you look, how well you feel all day, right? When you're hydrated, you feel better. So make the point. It's a small thing, and set an example for somebody else.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let me go to the crew because folks are checking in. Sandy said, parents are interested in convenience, Doc. You can teach about good food habits, but if the parent's not buying it, what do you do?
The fact of the matter is, when we try to change too much at once, that is the problem. That is the problem. I'm not saying all of a sudden you're emptying out your cupboards, you got a garden in the backyard. Like it's not going to happen that quickly for people. But it's small changes that you make little by little. You show your family and you prove to yourself, I want a different life. What can I control? So I'm going to start with these small things. There's certain things I'm not going to buy. Okay. There's certain things that I'm going to make a point of trying to get, my schedule is incredibly busy. I want to eat more vegetables and what have you, but I don't like sitting around chopping vegetables all day. I buy a vegetable tray. Now in the long run, I want to be more organic. I want to add a lot of these things on, but you do it little by little, and anyone who's walking around holier than thou thinking that they're doing all of it at once, it's fake. And when you see them it's fake because it takes time to get there.
Right. So basically, you're basically saying, don't beat yourself up.
Don't beat yourself up. No.
Don't beat yourself up.
That's not what this is about, right? Sharing this information is not to come down on anybody. It's not to turn your nose up at any choices that people are making. People change when they have information to change, a reason.
Right.
So this isn't about being above and beyond anybody else. There's some things I'm going to say that we should make life changes about, and it doesn't resonate with you. And then there's something else that we'll talk about on this show, and it will hit home, and that'll be the thing that starts you in a new direction. And that's all I ask.
Janelle checked in and said, sometimes convenience stores and highly processed food are all working and poor parents have access to.
Yes.
What's your take on that, Doc?
The fact of the matter is if that's what you're working with at the time, even in the convenience aisle, there are better choices and there are worse choices. Okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that you stop all convenience. I'm not like, you're not about to be Mr. Green Jeans and have your garden and everything else. It's fine. but it's fine. But the idea is that even in those aisles, there are good choices. There's some choices that are better than others. And it's being aware enough to say, you know what? I mean, I am doing the convenience thing, but I am going to make a choice that might be better for my family.
Let me see here. And I think a lot of people was just simply sharing. Let me see if I can pull this one up. Oh, you don't like my music.
Excuses. And I want to say that as well.
Yeah.
It's very easy to say, oh, I don't have a choice. You have choices. You know,
well, yeah, I mean, I think you do. I think we all got choices, right? You know what I'm saying? Like in everything, I always tell people the same thing, Doc. Like, stop saying you don't have no choice. Like, nobody is compelling you to drive up to the closest fast food joint, like, you know, and getting that type of food. You know what I'm saying? Like, even in the fast food space, you could be like, okay, do I want this or that, right? And something that we try to do here is like in terms of, you know, if my son or daughter say, oh, I want a burger and fries, I'll cook it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like just making the decision to taking your mouth out of someone else's kitchen can mean can make a world of difference, right?
Absolutely.
So it's like getting back to, and I'm saying, I get it because we're all busy and time consuming and the whole nine. I'm not saying every meal is like, oh, okay, can you throw something in the oven versus from the store versus cooking a lasagna? You know what I mean? That's different. But it's like if you have the option to prepare food at home, to get, you know, something more healthier at home, why not take that option?
Absolutely.
Right? Why not take that option? You don't like okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
I will tell you that something someone said to me recently that hit home, because I make those same choices everybody else is making, right?
Not you.
They said to me, eat like you love yourself.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Who said this to you?
Don't worry.
All right, don't worry. All right, so eat like you love yourself. And to some people, eating crap is a form of self-love. I'm being very serious about this. Like, you know, that's cool, but suppose you have this distorted view of what love is and how you should apply it to yourself. And I'm being very serious here.
No, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. And, you know, my first thought is there's one thing to be indulgent and to treat yourself, but that's not what I said. I'm talking about eat like you love your body. Eat like you want to take care of it. Eat like you love yourself, which is very different. And even if you have a distorted idea about what love is, then we starting on another. We got to start back a few steps. Okay.
Right.
That because if eating foods that can be destructive to your body is the same thing as loving your body, if indulgence is always the same thing as loving your body, then we need to start back. We need to have a different idea of what it means to take care of your body.
Absolutely. Look, I got to take another quick pause, Doc, because when we come back, I want us to shift gears from talking about this as we're talking about food, talking about what's just been added to the Dirty Dozen list. Folks, join us in a conversation right on YouTube as we're streaming live there under Roland Martin's name. Make sure y'all join the conversation, be a part of the culture crew today. Pose your questions, share your thoughts as we're talking about reclaiming your wellness with Dr. Bridges. Stay with me. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking to Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. Let's bring the good doctor back into the conversation. Doc, talking about kidney stones, but then we've been also talking about eating proper foods. I want to point out what one of my loyal culture crew members had to say, because Shalinda, you know better. Shalinda said, Doc, she said, let me just make sure. She said, the thing is this: why bring the bad food inside the house? Buy good foods and the children will ask for it. Because the bad food tastes good, Shalinda. You ever eaten an Oreo? It tastes good. Look. High fructose corn syrup. My son asked me the other day, he was like, Dad, I don't like syrup on my pancakes. I'm like, okay. Now I prepare gluten-free vegan pancake, gluten-free pancake. He's like, yeah, I don't like me to put syrup on my pancake. I said, well, why don't you like the syrup? He said, it just doesn't taste the same. Because he's gone over to his friend's house and they eat the syrup with high fructose corn syrup. And I said, oh, so you like the high fructose corn syrup? Yeah, Dad, it tastes good. I said, son, it's not the healthiest thing for you, to be honest. It actually causes you to gain weight and you can't run around, you can't play sports. And we were at this whole time. He still looked at me like I had two heads. He's like,
I think the thing is, this is a metaphor that I use with my kids around clothing. And I think I've said this before. Just because they make it doesn't mean you have to wear it.
Come on, Doc.
Right?
Come on.
And that's a problem in just American culture. We're bombarded with all these messages and we're like, oh, that's what we should do.
Right.
Just because they make it doesn't mean you have to wear it. Just because they sell it doesn't mean we're supposed to eat it. And if we've learned anything over the years, that we need to be incredibly discerning, particularly in Black communities, because they don't care what we're doing. You see what I'm saying? We're not looking out. So what is available and what choices are we making? And yes, so I thought you were suggesting that Shalinda was playing the devil's advocate, but you're the one that's playing the devil's advocate. Just because it's good doesn't mean it's good for you, right? And tell me that good food cannot taste good. If you haven't figured that part out, then you're not making it right.
And I agree with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that we should expand the palette a little bit, right? And I see this in our community all the time, Doc. All the time. If you have, and I'm sure crew, I know somebody in your family is either lactose intolerant, gluten-free, vegan or vegetarian, right? Some folks are pescatarian. We have all these different diets. But when you go into the Black community in any major city, right, from Los Angeles to Cleveland to New York to Miami, it's still hard to find places to cater to that diet, right? It's still hard and within the Black community. Now, we can find it in the white community, but within the Black community, it's still like gluten-free. People still look at you like you got three heads. Like, what's that? Or why would we sell that? Or if they sell it, there's such an upcharge on the flour. And I know exactly how much this stuff costs. So I'm like, man, it's not that much of a difference. It doesn't taste different. It doesn't take much for us to adjust the offerings that we have in the community. Part of it, I think, is just that we don't want to let go of some old diets, some old ways that we know is killing us, Doc.
But see, at the same time, the largest growing vegan community in the nation are Black Americans led by Black women. I think we are becoming more discerning. I think we are kind of looking at what are they putting in the food and is that right for my body and my family. So I think it really just it's about taking the time to make yourself a priority. It's about taking the time to say, wait, how do I, because it isn't easy to figure out how do you replace the protein. It's hard to understand how do you still feel full if you're eating a raw diet. Like it's a little bit tricky and it takes time. But if you're in a space and every year everyone's got their little New Year's resolution and more than half of the people are saying that they want to lose weight, instead of saying I want to lose weight, say I want to eat differently, which will lead to the weight loss.
That's true. Absolutely. All right. So speaking of food, there was a new food that was just added to the Dirty Dozen list.
Yeah.
And this is a food, this is quite surprising, actually. Talk to us about what that new food is, Doc.
Absolutely. So if you don't know the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, this is a great way to look at not only how you eat, but how careful you need to be in preparing the food that you're eating. Okay. So every year, the U.S. Department of Agriculture does a huge study on 46 fruits and vegetables looking for pesticides. And within that group, they look at not just testing them, but they prepare them, clean them, what have you, just as you would in your own home. And they're finding that they're often covered with over 250 pesticides on the food. Top of the list every year has been strawberries and followed with spinach. Okay. We're talking about covered in pesticides. Then it's followed with kale, collard greens, and mustard greens. Then we're getting to other soft fruits like peaches, pears, nectarines, apples, grapes, and peppers and cherries. Okay. The add-ons are blueberries and green beans. Now, what you'll see with all of these that they're either leafy or they're thin-skinned, and so when pesticides are being used on the farms to treat the fruit or the plants, that the pesticides are very easily able to soak into the flesh of the fruit itself. So that's part of the problem. But 90% of blueberries, so we're talking about blueberries and green beans being number 11 and 12, but nearly 90% of blueberries and green bean samples had concerning levels of pesticides in it. Okay.
How do you get around that? Because we don't grow in mass. And I'm not saying that this, I know people grow and they have their urban gardens and everything. But majority of our foods aren't coming from Black farm, aren't coming from urban gardens that have been cultivated or Black farmers that give a damn about us. So how do you change that?
So number one, and I'm really bad at this because I'm frugal. You buying organic, particularly for that Dirty Dozen, might be really important. Okay. And so the reason is because organic, there is a good reason. It's expensive for a reason because they're not using the pesticides to grow. And so with those particular top 12, and I'll put them on my page a little bit later, those are the ones, if you're having to choose between, what's at the grocery store, that Dirty Dozen, those are the ones that you want to buy organic. If you're able to grow some things yourself, definitely do that. Eating more of the clean fit. It's really, these fruits are important. So I don't want to even suggest that we're not eating them by any means, because they are packed with nutrients that our body needs and our kids need. But also eating things from the Clean 15 can be helpful. And wash your food properly. It's hard, particularly with these soft flesh fruits, where a lot of the Clean 15 tend to be fruits that have a heavier rind on it, like watermelon, like cantaloupe, where it's not soaking into the flesh itself. But washing your food properly, using baking soda, soaking your fruits a little bit more might be helpful to actually get rid of some of these pesticides. I think part of the point here is, why is it an issue? And it's because when you are exposed to pesticides, we're talking issues with cancer. We're talking about issues with hormone levels. We're talking about lymphoma and other issues that can be incredibly damaging, and particularly for those that are pregnant and for the youngest children.
Shalinda, you checked back and you said I use vinegar to clean my fruits because I was told in school that it would help remove bacteria and pesticides. For Raji asked the doctor, is that true? Is that true, Doc?
Vinegar is another option that people use to clean their fruits, which can be helpful. I like baking soda because it's easy. Some people use actually a saltwater solution as well. You want to be able to scrub the fruits that you can. Obviously, you can't do that with everything. Definitely wash your fruit before you're peeling it as well for fruits that you can peel. So just keeping all that in mind is really, really helpful. There are some wash solutions, but why do that when you can just get a little bit of vinegar or salt or baking soda and do it yourself?
Absolutely. Corinna, you checked in and said, yes, I use baking soda to clean many things, including fruit. Baking soda is also good for brushing your teeth. It sounds like we are slowly getting back to an all natural movement when it comes to the handling of fruit and vegetables. Would you say that that's the case now?
I think it's important to, like I said, this isn't about being perfection. It's about sharing information that's going to resonate with some people, right? And so particularly, my focus is that from this Dirty Dozen, either I'm buying organic or I'm going to be that much more mindful when I'm washing it. And then I'm going to try to get that clean 15 in that much more.
The clean 15, where can people find that list, Doc?
So I'll put it all on my page after the show today, but topping the clean 15. So these are fruits and vegetables have the least amount of pesticides involved that they're finding with that. And so it's really important that, we're aware of how this can be, an issue and can be damaging, and so that we can stay healthier. But avocados are top of the list, followed by pineapples, onions, papaya, frozen sweet peas, asparagus, honeydew melon.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, because you might think that's still a little bit softer. Cabbage, mushrooms, mangoes, sweet potatoes, watermelon, and carrots.
I think I need to I need a salad after the show or something.
I know, right?
I need a salad right now. The other thing is, where does the urban gardening piece comes in with this? Because so many of our people are now getting into urban gardening. Do you have any recommendations on getting your fruits and vegetables from that soil, especially if you live in the inner cities of America?
If you have the time and ability, you can still go to farmers market. If you are doing an urban garden, be also mindful. Are you adding a lot of pesticides to that as well? It wasn't that long ago that there was the whole Roundup lawsuit and issues that developed with the glyphosate herbicide, where basically it's built to kill everything. Right. And so when you're talking about something that's built to kill everything, it will cause harm to you as well. And so, like I mentioned, the hormone dysfunction, cancer issues, the developing brain and nervous system. What are we doing? What are we choosing here? Right. And it seems like to create mass production of fruits and vegetables, we're willing to put ourselves at a certain amount of risk. And if you already have a questionable immune system, you need to be mindful of this. If you're pregnant, 100%. If you have small children, try to make that effort, because and some of this is, if you're already hopefully at least rinsing your fruits and vegetables, adding a little baking soda in there is not going to take that much time.
Right. It's just about being intentional about what you're doing. It's also about fact checking, because I think a lot of us are, we use, we follow what we've been taught for so long. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I've seen, and again, this is not in the stores where Black people are. but I've seen in stores where they have special fruit and vegetable cleaners. You know what I'm saying? Like that you can pick up. It's in a bottle. You can spray on your fruits and vegetables and then clean them like that. You know what I mean? With special brushes, special little tools and instruments. I mean, this is the stuff, like when we really start to see, as we wrap up this discussion, Doc, when we really start to see how much the small things can play into the big part of sustaining our lives, right? From the things that we have been taught to what is offered, the resources and the new information that's offered today. I mean, if there's a stark disparity, and even from Black households to white households, you know what I'm saying? We're just not privy, or we're not getting this type of information that just simply cleaning your fruits and vegetables. Because I remember as a child, I don't know if anybody else did this. As a child, you get some grapes, you eat them right then and there in the store. You know what I'm saying? You pick up a banana, boom, you eat that right then and there in the store. And I mean, I'm not saying that that's wrong, but you know what I'm saying? It's just like those little habits, those little things that we've carried on from childhood to adulthood, and how they have impacted us. And then you read these studies, you hear people like yourself and others who say, we need to check on some things, we need to change some things. It's like, man.
You know, you shouldn't have to be afraid of eating a grape. Right? Like, think about what we're talking about. We shouldn't have to be so fearful and cautious. What are we doing that we're creating a society? And I am not a conspiracy theorist. I do not really buy in to a lot of the whole fear factor and being, you know, a germaphobe. And I don't have time. I'm here to live my life. Right?
Right.
But having the information so that at times you make an effort that might be more beneficial, or if you're already in a situation where your immune system or your health is already questionable, then having that information is helpful, right? And it can make an influence. But we shouldn't be afraid of eating a grape. We shouldn't be. You know, I don't ever want to take people into a place where they're afraid of everything around them.
Yeah.
You know, eat the grape. But be mindful of that when you're preparing and you're coming home and you have tons of, you know, fruits and vegetables, what have you, all that's going to add up, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when you're saying, you know what, let me make a little bit more effort in some of this, or I have really small children, or, you know, pregnancy, or, you know, you might, you know, a lot of us have, you know, elderly, you know, parents that might be living with. Be mindful of some of those things, but I'm not about creating fear at all.
Oh, absolutely. That's a good point. That's an excellent point. Eat the damn grape.
Eat the damn grape.
Eat the damn grape. I hear that.
I hope it was good.
All right, Dr. Bridget, how can people connect with you? Are you doing an after chat tonight? What's the word?
Absolutely. So you can always, and thank you I've had people from the show send me DMs on Instagram, Dr. Bridget MD. And I've answered them directly, and I'll actually do some videos around those as well. So you can always reach out to me on Instagram, Dr. Bridget MD. You can also email me at info@drbridgetmd.com. And we'll do 5:30. We'll cover some of this. I'll make some graphics. So, you know, I hope that I can make a graphic that will you'll print it out or save it on your phone so that when you're at the grocery store, you're making good choices.
And let me tell y'all something. What other platforms allow you to have this type of information from a certified physician to answer your questions directly and having these conversations? This is a real blessing. Dr. Bridget, you're a blessing. You're a blessing. I truly, truly appreciate you. Dr. Bridget MD, y'all can check her out each week here on The Culture on Mondays generally, but you can check her out each week for Reclaim Your Wellness. Dr. Bridget, thank you for being so good for the culture and keeping us healthy and well. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great one.
You too. All right, folks, we got to take another pause. When we come back, Trends Post and Doing the Most. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. So here's what's trending right now. Jamie Foxx is back out in the public. Yeah, folks. After months of speculation about his rumored declining health, according to the reports, we have now officially seen Jamie Foxx out and about. He was on a boat in Chicago over the weekend, and he was also spotted playing top golf at the Naperville, Illinois location. And people are saying that he is happy, he's looking healthy, and that essentially he's not dead. So big shout out to brother Jamie Foxx for getting back to health. And man, there were so many. I had the weirdest experience. I got to tell you all about this later because we don't have time for it today. But I had the weirdest experience, crew, about this Jamie Foxx situation. I cannot wait to tell y'all. It was so weird. It was like, how the hell did my name get associated with Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz? Yeah, well, it did. It definitely did. So big shout out to Jamie Foxx and his family. Good to see our brother back out and about doing his thing and just enjoying life. And hopefully he's getting the recovery and getting the type of support that he needs. Also, here's another thing that's been trending right now. Meg Thee Stallion and Miss Lauryn Hill are set to perform at the Global Citizen Festival that's coming up. They are there to represent women empowerment. Yep. They're providing examples of female empowerment with their performances, but hopefully encourage fans to take action during the event, which will be streamed on numerous platforms. The Global Citizens Festival is an opportunity to help young girls, to empower young girls, especially those in Generation Z, to take on action on gender inequality, climate change, and other issues. Here's my question. I might be petty for asking this, but I got to ask the question. I wonder if Meg Thee Stallion is going to have women twerking on stage for that festival. I'm just asking. I just got to ask. Are we going to see that? Are we going to see the same display she did at Essence Fest at Global Citizen Festival? We will see. Studies show that half of Gen Z feel disillusioned and powerless to make a positive impact, according to the CEO, Hugh Evans, for Global Citizen. So he said, as long as you and I have been alive, there was almost a sense of positive momentum in the world that almost felt like the eradication of extreme poverty could be inevitable, but the data suggests the world is now getting worse. So they're going to be doing their part to raise awareness about this issue and so many others at the Global Citizen Festival. I hope so. I hope so, because we all need a little reminder of the power that we have. All right, folks, those are the two things that are trending right now. Make sure y'all do your due diligence. Download the app for free. And I'm talking about Black Star. If you can download Spell, like many of you have said, you can download Black Star. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. Do your due diligence. We need your financial support. But we also want to make sure that we are on every device in your household so we can continue to be the space and the platform for fantastic conversations like hopefully the ones that you enjoyed today. So go to Black Star Network, download the app for free. If you are checking us out on Roku, make sure you do your due diligence and make sure that you set your time for as we're streaming live on Amazon News as well. And your support is definitely needed. Make sure you also follow Black Star Network on all social media platforms, on Instagram, Twitter, and of course on YouTube. You can follow us on Roland Martin on YouTube, and just keep us informed. Make sure that we keep you informed to do our due diligence. So go check out and support Black Star Network. Also follow me on all social media platforms. All right, y'all ready for this one? I'm on Instagram at The Real Faraji. I'm on Twitter as Faraji. I'm on Threads at The Real Faraji. I'm on Spill at Faraji. I'm on Facebook at Faraji. Y'all get it. You get it, crew. You get the idea. So make sure you follow me, and I would love to connect and build with you there. All right, folks, our time has been very well spent. Make sure you check us out on tomorrow. We got some fantastic guests that are going to be checking in. Suzette Speaks, my sister's going to be checking in tomorrow. Always have a great conversation with her. And for the rest of the week, we're going to be also checking in with Dr. Melina Abdullah for Black Lives Matter as they celebrate their 10-year anniversary this weekend here in Los Angeles. So that should be certainly a celebration worthy of a lot of consideration. So make sure you stay tuned for the show all this week. All right, stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, exclusively here, only here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Peace.